Have a seat. Adjust yourself up to the microphone. You don't have to speak directly into the microphone, but you speak so the gentleman on the back row there can hear you, okay?
Yes, sir.
All right, do you understand that you're now under oath and your answers will be sworn answers under penalty of perjury?
Yes, sir.
All right, you may proceed.
Investigator Cotton, if you would introduce yourself to the ladies and gentlemen.
Zachary Cotton. I'm an investigator at the Rankin County Sheriff's Department.
Investigator Cotton, how long have you been with the Rankin County Sheriff's Department?
I started in April of 2015.
And tell us kind of work your way through, because did you start in dispatch?
The jail.
The jail.
Yes, ma'am. And I went to the academy in January of 2017.
And so you graduated from Law Enforcement Academy in 17, and then were you with the Sheriff's Department as a road deputy at that point?
I was a school resource officer at the beginning, and then in December of 2017, I transferred to patrol.
On March the 19th of 2024, what role were you in with the Rankin County Sheriff's Department?
I was working in investigations.
Did you have the opportunity to be called out to 314 Ashton Way?
214, actually.
214.
Yes,
Thank
ma'am.
you. And where is that?
It's over there in Farmington Station, over there off of Farmington Boulevard, out in Brandon, Mississippi.
And what was your reason for going out to that location?
The Sheriff's Department received a call from a male that had stated that he had been shot by his stepdaughter and that his wife was found deceased inside the residence.
And what was your role when you arrived on the scene at that location?
When we initially got there, I, along with other parties on scene, made sure the residence was safe. Other investigators had made it on scene prior to my arrival and began taking pictures. While I was on scene, it was noted that a friend of the suspect or the defendant had been located in the area. I went outside and interviewed him whenever he was outside the residence.
And we heard from testimony from him yesterday. What, if anything, did you do after you spoke to the male friend that came that day?
His mother was there, explained to her that we would need his phone in order to make a forensic copy of the phone, due to him admitting that he had communicated with the defendant through his cellular device. Around the time that he was being interviewed, and I'm not sure the exact time, but it was informed that Miss Gregg was taken into custody. At that time, it was verified where to take her, whether or not the jail or to the youth detention center due to her age. It was decided to take her to the youth detention center out in Pelahatchie.
While on the scene, did you have interaction with Miss Gregg?
If I did, it was very brief. I don't recall.
Did you have an opportunity at the Sheriff's Department to do any sort of testing on Miss Gregg?
I did not. One of the other investigators, whenever she was arrested at the scene, was able to test her for gunshot residue and did initial photographs of her person.
Did anybody take any buccal swabs of Miss Gregg?
Yes, ma'am.
Are you aware of when that happened?
It was approximately a week later. I obtained a search warrant for buccal swabs.
Permission to approach the witness, Your Honor?
Yes, ma'am.
I've handed you one envelope. What do you recognize that to be?
It says it's a buccal swab of her left cheek and a buccal swab of Miss Gregg's right cheek.
And those are both of Carly Gregg, the defendant?
Yes, ma'am.
Did those appear to be altered in any way?
No, ma'am. Other than they were taken to the crime lab.
If you would you turn them over? Are your initials on those?
Yes, ma'am.
And what does that mean?
That I sealed it on that specific date.
Your Honor, we'd ask that these be marked as state's next exhibits.
Any objection?
No objection, Your Honor.
All right, mark the left cheek as S47.
Investigator Cotton, excuse me, did you also close and seal evidence of swabs taken from the firearm used to kill Miss Smiley?
That was not me. I believe that was Investigator Burnell did that.
May I approach witness, Your Honor?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm handing you two envelopes. If you could take a look at those, both front and back. what are those two envelopes?
They, this one says it's a swab taken off of the trigger of the firearm, and this other one says it's a swab from the hammer of the revolver.
And do those both bear your initials as well,
Yes, ma'am.
indicating that you do know what those are?
Yes, ma'am.
And is that taken from the hammer and the trigger of the weapon used in this crime?
Yes, ma'am.
Your Honor, we'd ask that those be marked as the state's next exhibit.
Any objection?
No objection, Your Honor.
S49 will be the swab of the hammer. S50 will be the swab of the trigger.
Investigator Cotton, we've heard from two other officers, a deputy and investigator, that were involved in this case, and so I certainly don't want to rehash what they've talked about. We've gotten, I think, through the point where in the investigation where the crime scene was cleaned up, or processed, I'm sorry, the victim was taken out of the home, both the living and the deceased victim. At some point, did you have the opportunity to observe an autopsy on Ashley Smiley?
Yes, ma'am. It was approximately a week later. I believe it was on March 26th at the Mississippi Crime Lab.
May I approach, Your Honor? I'm handing you what's previously been marked as 41 and 42 for ID. If you could take a look.
These are both projectiles that were recovered from the body of Ashley Smiley, one of which was recovered from her brain and the other which was recovered from the back of her neck.
And were you present when the autopsy was performed and those projectiles were removed?
Yes, ma'am, I was.
And did you also seal that evidence?
I believe the crime lab sealed that one due to them being the one that actually recovered the projectiles.
But you were present when they were recovered?
Yes, ma'am.
We'd ask that those be marked as an exhibit rather than ID at this time, Your Honor.
Any objection?
No objection, Your Honor.
They'll be admitted all purposes. Please hand them back to the court reporter. They mark 41 and 42 all purposes.
I tend to witness, Your Honor.
Cross.
Investigator Cotton, who all did you witness, or who all did you, I guess, interview in this case?
One of the parties that was interviewed was the friend that was over at the residence at the time Mr. Smiley was shot.
And her initials would be the BW, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And then as well as the friend that was outside the residence that was located, whose initials are BG.
Okay.
I also spoke with parents of some of the other juveniles that Miss Gregg had attempted to contact on the date that this incident occurred, as well as Mr. Smiley.
Okay. And when I guess, you were at this, you originally were the investigator who got the, I guess, a little SD drive, SD card, would that be correct?
The one that he provided to us went with the initial garage footage.
Yes.
Is that one? Yes, sir.
Okay, so, and you were at the scene that night, when this takes place on the 19th.
Yes, sir. I went to the residence for a short period of time.
And you helped with the investigation, and you're the lead investigator.
Yes, sir. Investigator Burnell helped me with it.
Okay, and so you gathered all the evidence and information that you could on the 19th.
Investigator Burnell did. I wasn't there for the processing of the scene. I had left to go back to the office.
Okay, and then what did you do when you got back to the office?
We have a drying chamber up there that we can secure clothes and other evidence in there that may either be saturated in blood or just water in general. Miss Gregg's clothes, whenever she was booked in, were brought up there and placed in this drying chamber to dry out.
Now, you're the person, I guess, who's in charge of gathering all the evidence for this case. Would that be correct?
I assisted with it. I had other investigators assist me with it as well.
Okay, but you're sort of you're the main guy in this case, so everything sort of comes to you. Would that be correct?
Yes, sir. Eventually, it would come back to me.
Okay. And so you see all the videos, you know everything that's out there concerning this case, right?
I would believe so, yes.
Okay. Now, I know at some point there's a video with I guess a Deputy Stack?
Oh, Shaq?
Shack, I'm sorry, Shack. Are you aware of that one?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And does Carly ask to see her mother on that video, doesn't she?
I don't recall.
Okay. Now, I guess you interviewed Heath, is that correct?
Yes, sir, at a later date, not on the date that the incident occurred.
Okay. When you interview Heath, and this is, I guess it's a couple days after, is that correct?
I think it was approximately a week and a half. It was the very beginning of April.
Okay. And he comes and sits down, and had you gotten the SD card at that time?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And so, because I noticed it said that you and it was you, his attorney, and himself, and he had gotten an attorney based upon whatever happens with this SD card, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, you're asking him, sort of why this happens, or why this happened, because this was not normal for, somebody just to walk up and shoot their mother, correct? Especially if there's not a sort of a history or something, correct?
I may have. I don't remember the specific question, but I may have an interview.
Okay. And it's at that time where, and Heath doesn't really know, correct?
Correct.
And so the next thing that happens is y'all start talking about, yes, she was in treatment and they had switched her medication. And I don't think he could tell you what it was, but you just had a general conversation.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And so that was the first time you learned that there may be psychological issues in this case. Now, we had just seen, there was a video, and I think it's a video you've been questioned about before, and it was, I guess it's the video, it's the camera that was found, not the little SD card, but the camera that was found in the refrigerator. You know what we're talking about with that camera?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And I think you've been questioned about it, and you said you can't tell what Miss Smiley, what room she's in, correct?
You talking about Miss Ashley Smiley?
Yes, Ashley Smiley.
Yes.
You do not know what room she's in. At
No,
different
sir. I can't
times.
say for certain which room she's in.
Yes. And you can't tell anything that she was carrying or not carrying or anything. You were never able to identify that.
It's not. It's kind of the distance. It's not really discernible what exactly it is. She just had stuff in her hands at some points.
And I think your testimony would be from before is that you didn't see them fighting or doing anything that was out of the ordinary before this incident happened, correct?
Yes, sir.
And I think you checked with did you check with her friends at school and everything to see if there was anything there that had caused problems?
I spoke with the BW and BG. I know BG had mentioned that he had told Miss Smiley prior to them leaving school that day that he had informed her of a phone that she wasn't supposed to have because, to my understanding, she was in trouble already and had her actual phone taken away, and had told her about what he called weed pens that she had been using, and he said that he had told Miss Smiley that prior to her leaving school and going home with Miss Gregg.
And I think he also had told you he didn't see anyone like Miss Smiley mad or anything like that when he left Miss Smiley, correct?
I believe so.
Okay. Now, I just a couple of questions. I was just wondering. Okay, BG he's a minor, correct? He's already testified.
Yes.
Okay, and you questioned him at the scene and also at the police station, or just at the scene?
No, sir. Just at the scene.
Okay, and did you get his parents' permission to do that before you did it?
No, sir. He wasn't a suspect at the time, and his mother, right when I began speaking with him, actually walked up. I believe he had already called her.
Okay. At some point, had y'all told him, and he had communicated to his mother that y'all were just taking him home?
Objection or cause for speculation.
Overruled as to what he told me.
Yeah. Did you tell BG that y'all were just going to take him home?
I do not recall. I don't remember saying that to him. I'm not sure if other deputies did.
May I beg the court's indulgence for a moment, Your Honor? And I just want to be clear. I think you've already, it's sort of going back to that camera. You had said, I think you've already said that you couldn't tell if Ashley Smiley had been cleaning out a drawer like in the other room or something like that. You had no idea what she was doing, correct?
No, sir. She just appeared to be going over to that side of the residence where Miss Gregg's room was and then coming out with items in her hand.
Okay. No further questions.
Redirect examination.
Mr. Gregg Cotton, I'm handing you what's previously been marked as Exhibit 36 and 37. Do you recognize those photographs?
Yes, ma'am.
Who's depicted in that photograph on the floor, deceased?
Ashley Smiley.
And whose room was that, did you determine during your course of your investigation?
It was Carly Gregg's room.
And in the course of your investigation, were there also other signs that the shooting had occurred in that bedroom?
Yes, ma'am. I believe there was some blood spatter on the television that was in the room that was mounted on the wall, as well as there was a defect in the wall where one of the projectiles had gone.
Was there any evidence that any crime had occurred in the guest bedroom?
No, ma'am. Not that we found.
Based on your investigation, the murder of Ashley Smiley occurred in what bedroom?
In Miss Gregg's bedroom.
And who murdered her?
Miss Gregg.
And based off your investigation, who attempted to murder Heath Smiley?
Miss Gregg.
And based off your investigation, and we watched the video just a few moments ago, who's the last person that was alive in the house when the camera goes out?
Miss Gregg was.
Is it your understanding that she's the one that removed the camera?
Yes, ma'am.
No further questions, Your Honor.
May this witness be finally excused by the state.
So does your recall, Your Honor.
All right. You're free to stand down, but you must leave the courtroom and you must not discuss your testimony with anyone else, okay? You're free to step down. Well, he